Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Triangulation is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com. It's time for Triangulation, episode 109, recorded June 26th, 2013. Dr. Kiki. Triangulation is brought to you by Manpacks, manly goods on a schedule. Get started today and have underwear, socks, toiletries, shaving supplies, and more delivered to your door. Visit manpacks.com/twit and get $10 off your first order of $30 or more, or buy a $50 gift card for $40. It's time for Triangulation, the show where we bring in the most interesting, the smartest, the most wonderful people on the internet and in technology, and we get some time to talk with them. You get some time too. If you watch our show live, I'm watching the chat room through the whole show, and I more than welcome your questions. Sometimes even our guests go into the chat room, although I usually warn them not to. This is a little bit of a different case because our guest this week is an old friend of the Twit Network, and not old in age, just we've loved her for a long time. Dr. Kirsten Sanford. Dr. Kiki is here.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Kiki.
Hello, how are you?
Everybody says we love you, we miss you. For several years, how many years? Dr. Kiki's Science Hour was a regular show on this network.
Yeah, it was a good number.
3 or 4 years. It was a while.
it was a while. We got up to over 100 episodes.
Wow. And, of course, This Week in Science, and you still do twists, yeah?
I do, yes. Which is a matter of confusion to people because of the whole twist thing. And
well, you were twist before I was twit.
Exactly.
So I'm confusing people about
twit,
you.
Coming on to twit and having twist on twit for a short period and then leaving twit and being on our own now, people thought that it was all gone. And I still have people saying, hey, wait, you're still doing twists? Yes,
well, let's nip that in the
am.
bud right now. Where can we find twists?
Twist.org is our website.
Wow, that's a good site.
And you can also find us, we're on Google+, and that's where we broadcast every week now through Hangouts on Air.
Oh, is that how you're doing it now? That's a great idea.
Yeah, This Week in Science, Twist.
Okay.
Google+ Hangouts.
TWIS.org, or look for This Week in Science on Google+, and you can follow on there too.
Yeah.
Look at that. What fun that is. Now,
It is
Dr.
super fun.
Kiki, I think this is a chance for us to talk a little bit to you and talk to you in a way that you probably aren't used to being talked to, being interviewed. You interview, but have you? How often do you get to be interviewed?
Every so often, but it's definitely the rarer occurrence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know a little bit about you, so I'm not gonna. You'll have to excuse me if I'm playing dumb.
That's all right.
But what kind of doctor?
I know you're smarter than,
Hey.
than you might look today.
What kind of doctor are you?
I am a doctor of neurophysiology. My PhD is in molecular, cellular, and integrative physiology.
Wow. And why did you get into that?
I got into it. My undergraduate degree was in wildlife fisheries biology, and I was really excited about conservation and saving the world. And then I went away to this summer biology camp up in the Rocky Mountains, and I got to do a course on ornithology. Went out bird watching, studied birds almost an entire summer, fell in love, came back, and was like, I want to work with birds. So I found a lab on campus. It was my senior year of my undergrad, and started working in this woman's lab, Nicola Clayton, who's now at Cambridge University.
What school was this?
UC Davis.
Oh, neat. And Davis is very well known for animal husbandry. It's got a great veterinary school.
Yeah, a great viticulture and enology
It is
program.
the place to go if you're into wine, that's for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But they had a neuroscience department as well, obviously.
Yeah. So my work when I got into the lab, it straddled animal behavior and neurobiology, neurophysiology. The questions the lab was trying to answer related to the structures within the avian, the bird brain, and how they functioned and how the interplay between behavior in an environment affected structures in the brain, and how those structures in the brain also affected behavior. So kind of the back and forth of nature nurture, but dealing with the brain. And we specifically focused on the hippocampus. I got really into this research. I fell in love with that, first birds, and then I was like, yay, I love slicing up their brains.
No, really?
No, that was my least favorite part of the work. But the work itself was incredibly interesting, delving into questions of how animals work, how we exist in our environments, how we survive, what has gotten us to the place that we are. So not just looking at birds, but also looking at humans from that perspective.
What do birds teach us about ourselves, though? Aren't they? They seem so different from us.
Birds can teach us a lot about ourselves. They do seem very different, and now we know a lot about where they've come from.
They're dinosaurs, right? Is that true?
Dinosaurs. It is true.
Yeah.
Yes, they are the living dinosaurs. They're the branch of dinosaurs that has survived to today.
Were they? So were they when brontosaurus? I guess we don't even call it brontosaurus anymore. I'm showing my age. When the dinosaurs were walking around, the stegosauruses and brontosaurus, were there little birds too, or what?
No. So it's not like there's a blue jay next to the brontosaurus.
Although that would be cool.
Tweet, tweetly. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was not the way.
But there were pterodactyls, were flying dinosaurs, right?
Those were flying dinosaurs, but there are a lineage of dinosaurs that were feathered, and they are known to have evolved this behavior of flight eventually. So not all of them actually flew in their earliest stages.
Interesting. But to get back to my question, so that does tell you that of course we're all descended from that era as well, but birds do seem like they're a little more ancient. They lay eggs.
They do.
So what do we get? What do we learn about ourselves? And they have little tiny brains.
And so that's one of the questions people always say, wow, how can they be smart? What are bird brains, right? Everybody talks about bird brains. No, bird brains, seriously, for the work that their brains do, given how small.
How big is a brain?
These birds are very smart.
Well, I think of how smart crows are, for instance.
Yes.
And you can see very intelligent seeming behavior.
Let me think. So a crow's brain is maybe a little bit, it's around ping pong ball size.
Not so big.
Brain, not
bigger than Ozzy's, my dog's brain, but.
Yeah. Zebra finches and other finch-like birds are maybe like a big garbanzo bean.
That's tiny.
Yeah.
Do you count the number of folds? Is that how we tell how much stuff's going on in there, or what?
No. So bird brains are not folded. They don't have
folds.
Folding in the sense that that a human cortex does. So birds do not have what's called a cortex. The brain is formed differently. So in our brain, the hippocampus is in the very middle. The amygdala, the hippocampus, the limbic system. It's all right between your ears.
Okay.
In the center of your brain. In birds, that stuff's up on top. So the hippocampus is outside of the brain.
Wow.
It's like right on top of the head. Very easy to get to. So for a scientist, it's a good thing to study.
I see.
Yeah. So then you look at the different structures and how they're folded and how they are organized. And what we're finding is that there's a different organization to the avian brain, but there are a lot of similarities. So the avian song system is very similar to the human speech production system.
Really?
Yes. So we find vocal centers that are nuclei structures within the brain in both mammals and birds. And there's a definite pathway to how they connect to the motor system to actually create the vibrations in the vocal cords that allow us to make sounds. And then also in terms of learning speech, there are very interesting parallels between the structures that are active as when birds are infants and similar structures that are active when humans are learning language.
But don't most songbirds do the same sound all the time, or is there evolving?
It depends on the bird. So some birds, that's it. They have one song. So the zebrafinch, you're going to have one song that it learns. And
generationally, it doesn't change over many generations?
There's going to be a slight change, but usually it is the zebrafinch song is learned from a tutor. And that tutor is usually
its mother?
Its mother or father.
Wow.
It's father, if it's a male.
Okay.
It's going to be learning its song from the father.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it hears the father singing the song, and then it tries to match what it hears to kind of a template in its head that's already there. And then later, the bird will try, during a plastic phase of song learning, will try to sing it. And it's all warbly, and it sounds terrible. It's like baby babbling.
Right.
But eventually, because of trying to practice and listening and matching against the template in the head, and also what was learned from the tutor, eventually they get to what's called crystallized song. And crystallized song for many bird species is the one song that the males will sing.
But that process is similar to the human child's process of learning to speak.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then there's parrots and parakeets and birds that can
vocalize and learn things. They mimic. They can learn lifelong new sounds.
But they don't know what they're saying, or do they?
Well, it depends on the bird, I guess. So Alex the parrot, who is now deceased, unfortunately, was trained in a lab run by Irene Pepperberg. And Alex the parrot was taught words.
Wow.
And according to the experiments that were done and the way that the bird was trained, it is very apparent that Alex understood words. Not speaking at the level that we're speaking right now, but speaking to a low level, maybe like a 2-3-year-old.
Is that at all controversial? Because I know Coco the gorilla was somewhat controversial. She was a gorilla who was able to sign.
Yeah, so Coco the gorilla is controversial because the signing. It's not known whether she actually knew what she was signing or whether she was just copying.
Kind of mimicking.
Mimicking the signs. Yeah. And the experiments were not rigorous enough to actually show that. And instead, there's a lot of the experimenter's bias that came into the experiment.
But not so with Alex?
Not so with Alex. The way that they've run the experiments, the people who train the birds are not the people who do the experiments.
Ah, smart.
And they have different items. So Alex would be trained on a particular set of items, blocks of wood, little cars, trucks, etc. He learned colors, numbers. He learned types of materials like wood, stone, brick. And
so he could look at a brick and say the word for brick, whatever that word was.
Yeah, brick.
He would say brick?
Brick.
Brick. And he'd look at wood and he'd say wood.
Yeah.
But that could also be some sort of...
yes, but the tests that they did, they would then give different items that he had never seen before, put them on a tray, and ask him to find a particular object.
Wow.
So say the wooden circle, and there would be metal circles. There would be, different types of materials, different colors, different shapes. And he would have to pick out the right ones. And more often than not, in a statistically significant number of occasions, he got the answer right.
That's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So that would imply that he understood and was able to make that connection.
Yes.
And with a little tiny brain.
With a little tiny brain, yeah, much smaller than ours. However, it's interesting to note that the corvid brain, corvids are parrots, not corvids, sorry, the Cetidae, the Psittacine brain is different from the corvid brain. Corvids are part of the songbird family, and so their brain is a little bit more developed than the rest of the songbirds. little bigger, little more developed. And then the citizen brain, the parrots, their brain is actually structured even differently from songbirds. So they're like this entirely different group.
But the corvids drive me freaking
birds.
Crazy because crows are corvids, right? And crows
are corvids.
seem
Magpies,
very
jays,
smart.
Crows, ravens. They
seem
are smart.
They seem like they're mocking me.
I think you're maybe anthropomorphizing.
And this is one of the really difficult things when you're doing these kinds of studies, is projecting onto the...
Exactly. It's one of the most difficult things, and it's difficult to get wild birds to do things in a laboratory situation,
right.
First off. And then if you can get them to do things in a laboratory situation, it's hard to make the test actually rigorous enough,
right.
So that you're, in a hopefully you can get into a double-blind situation so that you don't, the person who is taking down whatever behavioral data doesn't have any idea what group the bird is in, if they're in different, control group versus experimental group.
And that really speaks kind of to the fundamental issue, which is something that I know you really are interested in, take to heart, the scientific method in general.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so...
It's very difficult to get one's bias out of the picture, to design an experiment that can give you a real result. And I think a lot of lay people don't understand this process very well.
A lot of people do not understand the process, and it is complicated. I mean, sometimes when you try and design an experiment and you think you've got all the groups right, you're testing all the right variables, and you're doing it in such a way that you're not allowing bias in, sometimes you get to the end of the experiment and you go, oh no.
Whoops.
It happens. But then that's, you write that up in the paper and you say, this happened, we realized this, and so future experiments would control for this by da-da-da-da.
Honesty is key to science. That's number one, right?
Number one. And unfortunately, lately we've had so much in the press about dishonest scientists who are fabricating results, and we haven't heard much back on the front of stem cell research, but it's kind of a little scary that we might be having a repeat of, almost a decade ago of stem cells being used for cloning.
Right.
So being able to actually get stem cells from embryos.
They're actually doing embryonic cloning at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, why?
They're not actually leading human embryos to.
But they've cloned embryonic stem cells.
Yes.
And so, why is that? What does that have to do with with scientific method and honesty?
So in South Korea several years ago, there was a researcher Woo-Suk Hwang, I think was his name, and he worked with some researchers here in the United States, but the research was done in Korea, and he falsified his results. Oh. So it was a big black mark. It was this exciting result saying, wow, we've got these embryonic stem cells. They're human embryonic stem cells that are coming from the blastocyst, and there are all these issues that would make that very difficult. And so that he did it was very exciting. And then it came out that he was lying about it. And so it was this huge smash in the face for stem cell research. And stem cell research in itself is controversial.
Right.
So
we didn't need that.
We didn't need that. And so then, stem cell research goes back to normal again. And now we have researchers again recently who have said, yes, we have produced these human embryonic stem cells in the laboratory. We can do this on a repeated basis. This is something that, this is above board research, but then people found in the published papers that there were errors. And so it's the researcher says, oh, well, I was off at a conference and maybe the postdoc who was involved, messed up. And there's an investigation ongoing.
I guess there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure to publish, to find something new, that it takes a special person to say, no, I didn't find anything new.
Yeah.
And it's such a temptation. But boy, this is why science is so important. It's got to be fundamentally truthful. It's almost
and
a priesthood of another kind, right?
Yeah, and people really do have to hold the scientific method above all else.
Yes.
And there are many scientists, the majority of scientists, who do that on a daily basis. But there are a few scientists who get stuck in the daily grind of publish or perish, the institution of academia, and decide that they need to falsify things, that they need to just get papers out, and we end up with faulty research out there, which doesn't help anybody. There's been in the psychological literature, there's a movement now to replicate some number of studies from a particular year, because it seems as though a majority of psychological studies have not been done correctly, and that their results would not be reproducible.
Right.
And they're supposedly when they were published, were very significant results. And people are being treated based on this.
Oh boy.
Currently.
Right.
So
what is the mechanism that's used to keep this on the up and up?
We're breaking up here.
Oh no. Here, I'll tell you what.
Did my internet go down?
Call her back and I'll do a Manpax ad. I didn't want her to miss it because I thought maybe this would be good for Marshall. And we'll get you back, Kiki. Yeah, she's frozen solid. The nice smile, though. But I got my Manpack, and I wanted to tell everybody about it. Do you know what Manpax is? It's manly goods by mail. I get a Manpack 4 times a year, every 3 months. And you know, a lot of times in the past, until Manpacks came along, you'd go to the store and you'd buy this stuff when you thought about it, or, you know, you'd be wandering around and you'd say, oh, I should pick up some of that. I like the idea, and I do this more and more, of subscribing and getting stuff on a regular basis. That way you know you're gonna have it. So Manpacks is underwear, it's socks, it's face scrub, it's shaving cream, the things that you need every day, but you don't want to spend time shopping for them. They've got a great selection. It's kind of curated, so you know. In fact, why don't you show, if you can, John, the Manpack store. If you go to manpacks.com/twit, you'll see our special offer. But if you click on the store, you can see some of the things. Every product is tried and Guy approved by the great facts at the great guys at Manpacks. I love them. They include free shipping, free returns, easy online account management, simple, no BS return policy. Customer is king, and I can vouch for that at Manpacks. They really want you for life. And you know what? I've been a Manpacks. Jeff Jarvis was the first to tell me about it. I thought, oh, this is funny. I subscribed, and now I'm just... So I got my... I'll just show you my... This is a typical Manpack. I got my undies. This... I'm trying some new ones. These are the ex officio boxer shorts. It says 17. This is good for travel. That's why I got these. 17 countries, 6 weeks, 1 pair of underwear. Well, maybe 2. This is the men give and go boxer shorts. These are nice. You know what? I think these are the same kinds as Scott E-Vest ended up. Look at that. They stretch. All right. So I got 3 of those. And then I fell in love with these Jock socks. I get 3 of these. These are the best white socks ever. And then I've got this shampoo that I just fell in love with. This is a company called Grooming Lounge, and the Manpacks folks found these. So I get the Grooming Lounge shampoo and conditioner, and it's just right every 3 months. Just 1 bottle every 3 months. Although, you know, if you use more, I ended up getting 2 of the shaving creams because I go through 2 bottles every 3 months. And then this is the shaving oil that you put on. It makes it smooth and you don't cut yourself. So, and they threw in a little candy. Oh, a ginger chew. Ooh. So this is my Manpack every 3 months. And now it's easy to go online and change your order, and I do that sometimes. Here's my little Manpacks. Clothes make the man. Naked people have little or no influence on society. I think that's true. Mark Twain said that. And it's signed by my Manpack guy. And that's pretty cool. If there's a problem, I'll solve it. No BS return policy. I'll tell you what, we're going to give you a little deal here. $10 off your order of $30 or more. I think it's $30 or more. What does it say? Yeah. Or if you buy a $50 gift card, you can get that for $40. That'd be a great gift for the man in your life. Manpacks.com/twit. You see how clean shaven, how smooth my cheeks are in that illustration, that's because I use that great grooming lounge shave cream. I love it. Manpacks.com. I love Manpacks. It's silly, but it's true. Anyway, that's Manpacks, and I think Marshall would be very interested if you ever, need to just. Is he a shopper? Kiki's husband.
He's a shopper.
Oh, all right. So you don't need that. You don't need that help. And we should mention Kai, your baby, who's just a little over 2 years old, is asleep for the moment.
Yes, for the moment.
Yeah.
We have some household silence.
Yeah. Do you want Kai to follow in your footsteps?
I want him to do whatever he finds interesting. Everyone has to find their own passion and find the thing that they think is wonderful and that they want to spend their life doing. And I hope that he finds something. And if it has anything to do with audio, video, science, great.
So, let me ask you about that transition. So, you got a PhD in bird brains?
Bird brains, yeah.
What was your dissertation on again?
My dissertation, let me see, actually.
Do you have it there?
I have it back here.
How funny. Let's see. Let's see what a dissertation looks like. Here's how you get to be a PhD, boys and girls. Holy cow. Are you standing up?
This is an unbound, I am standing up. This is an unbound copy of my dissertation.
Wow, look at that. Oh, look
signatures,
at that.
The signatures that say, yay, okay,
She's a doctor.
it's accepted.
Is that an A+? Do I see an A+ on there?
A+, gold star.
They don't grade dissertation.
No. Is avian spatial cognition, behavioral and neural traits of nomadic and migrant species.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Is that the very fascinating subject of how the hell birds know where the hell to go?
Yeah, and how to find food, how they know where to go and how to find food. So I think a lot of it has to do with finding food and finding the right environmental conditions for the food that they like.
So they don't have in their mind, we're going north.
Some migrant birds do.
Okay.
So birds that are obligate migrants, they will, even if they're in a room with no locational cues, in a cage, they've never been able to migrate ever before. Come migration season in the fall, they will flap their little wings and try and go in the direction that the rest of their birds, their species of birds.
Is that part of what your dissertation was about?
That is kind of. So
more you were doing food.
So with the migrant birds, I was looking at differences in experience between birds that had differences in the brain, in the hippocampus specifically, to see if the hippocampus grew in size or if there was an increase in cell number or the size of the cell body, if that increased as birds got experience. So my hypothesis was that inexperienced birds, so little yearlings who had not yet migrated, that their hippocampi would be smaller than older experienced birds.
Right. And
that's what we found.
It's true.
It's true, yeah. And there are also some interesting differences between the hemispheres of the hippocampus. And there were some. We didn't have a large enough sample size to really see the difference between males and females, but there was a slight difference between males and females also.
The females learned better and faster, no doubt.
Yeah, and there was the difference between the birds. It didn't actually seem to be like the size of the hippocampus, so it's not like all of a sudden it went and got fatter. But within the hippocampus, there was a change in the cells themselves. So it seemed that there were a larger number of cells and larger cells.
Do you think that happens to humans too when they learn?
Yeah, well, we have neurogenesis.
Our neurons make connections.
No, we have new cells born within our brains.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So long time ago, before I started college even, The accepted wisdom and what was written in textbooks was that you are born with the number of neurons that
Right.
you're going to have for your entire life.
Right.
And then from the moment you're born, you're just going to start losing brain
dwindle.
cells.
Yes.
And that is not the accepted wisdom anymore. We now know, and there was a study that just came out recently, within the last month or so, I think, that I was very excited about because it actually showed in people using, this is really interesting, using the knowledge that there's radioactive, there are radioactive particles within the atmosphere. And since the 1950s, with the atomic bomb testing, during that period of time, there's a certain amount of radiation that was released into the atmosphere, and it's been diminishing at a known rate since then. People since then have been having, you have radioactive particles.
Right.
In your brain cells.
Right.
And
it's like carbon dating.
It's like carbon dating. And so using this information about atomic bomb testing, these researchers looked at the brains of people at different times. I don't remember all the details of the study, but basically they showed that, yes, the area of around our hippocampus, which is what I studied in birds, related to spatial memory and learning, but also to memory consolidation in general. So being able to actually take memories from short-term memory and put them in long-term memory, that we have new neurons born there at a pretty good rate for most of our lives.
Our brains are getting bigger.
Yeah. And so then those cells, they allow the new cells, and it kind of makes sense. If you're having to make new memories, if all you have are a bunch of old cells,
right,
that might not work really well. So this area of the brain that's associated with creating new associations, new memories, that it has a good turnover, that there are new cells born all the time, able to create new connections. The rest of our brain does not have the same kind of turnover. The rest of our brain is fairly static. We have very long-lived neurons. And in the rest of our brain, it's not necessarily new neurons being born, but as you said, the connections that are being made between them. So when it comes to learning new information, when you get it from short-term to long-term, what you're really doing in your cortex is creating a network for a particular moment in time of connected neurons that are all active in a particular way.
How interesting.
Yeah.
What, in your discipline, what did you have to know before you went into it? Did you have to be good at math?
It helped.
Statistics and stuff like that, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of statistics. And if you're going to, there's a lot of computer modeling, especially if you're going to go into neural networks. That's not what I went into. Right. But people who want to go into the modeling of the brain, absolutely, you have to be good at math. Or you have to have an interest in doing math.
And computer science, maybe.
And computer science, yeah.
In fact, I would bet in a lot of areas of science, and even of math these days, that there's a lot of computational math even now.
Yeah, there's quite a lot.
You need to know this stuff.
Absolutely, and there are whole new areas of research related to data and computational bioinformatics, genomics. Lots of computational sciences.
Were you good at math? Did you like math in grade school and high school?
Yeah, I did, but I definitely fell prey to a lot of the social pressures to math, to
girls aren't supposed to
whinge
like
about
math.
it. Yeah. I definitely fell prey to that, and that was to my detriment, but I picked it up.
Yeah.
I got through calculus. I got through all my stats classes and was able to use the information that I learned to be able to do the studies that I wanted to do.
Neat.
Yeah.
And you know why I'm asking, because one of the issues is a big issue these days is not only getting girls into science, technology, engineering, and math, but just getting people in general into these STEM subjects. Yeah. We need scientists, we need engineers, we need people who love math. And there should be no gender stigma, although the studies I've seen show that women actually are better at math in many cases.
I know, which is great.
Isn't that funny?
All these ideas. No, women aren't good at math. That's a bunch of BS.
Guess who's not good at math? Guys.
You're going to be good at whatever you put your mind to. And,
That's right.
sometimes you have to learn things that you're not entirely fond of. But you know what? Learn them because they're going to help you out.
There you go. So when did you go from being a practicing working scientist to somebody who talks about science?
That was around grad school. I went from, the first 2 years, in the first 2 years of grad school, taking all my classes, doing a little bit of research. I got to the point of taking of having to do my defense so that I could go on. And
this is your PhD defense, where
my PhD
you sit
defense
in front of some very mean professors, and you say,
they ask you a lot of questions, and you have to answer them.
That's the oral part of the PhD.
My oral exams, Oof. So it was a great learning experience. It was definitely nerve-wracking getting up to it, but it was
be intimidating. Yeah,
it is intimidating. But if you know what you're talking about, and if you've learned your subject area, it's interesting because you can actually end up having a conversation with these people who are now your peers.
Wow.
They used to teach you, and now you can be teaching them.
Exciting.
You can have a conversation, and it is very exciting. And it's kind of neat to have that moment of, kind of realizing, wow, I do have ideas and I do have knowledge. And I can share it, and I can work with these people, and I can collaborate. And so that was a really, really great part of the experience. But then my PI, who I worked for, she moved to Cambridge, and she couldn't take the lab with her. So I had no place to do my research, and I didn't really know anybody at UC Davis who I could finish my research with.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was kind of in this limbo. I'd finished 2 years. I probably could have written a very short paper and gotten a master's at that point and gotten out. But what I did is I took a leave of absence. And so I moved to San Francisco to be with my boyfriend. And I got a job for a while in the UC San Francisco School of Pharmacy. And then I got another job in UC San Francisco's neuropsychopharmacology lab, and I gave illicit drugs to people for a while.
So that's not made up in your bio.
No,
that part's true.
It's very true.
What kind of drugs?
Ecstasy, cocaine.
This was done in research.
Amphetamines. Yes.
This wasn't an illegal practice. This was part of the research that you were doing there.
This is the research program.
Wow.
Part of the work was funded by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, and a lot of the research was looking at different ideas of cessation. So how to get people off of drugs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. One of them, we were looking at a chemical called buprenorphine to be used for heroin addicts to get off heroin.
So that's an interesting area.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
That was great fun.
Yeah.
It's doing human research though is it's an interesting place.
There are ethical issues that come up, I'm sure.
Many ethical issues, especially if you want to test, want to find out what a particular drug is like on somebody who's never taken it before. Can you do that? What is the ethical, what if they go on to take that drug more?
Right.
They have to tell you that they're interested in it, and they have to tell you that they'd probably do it or try it at some point, even if you weren't giving it to them. But at the same time, if you give somebody a drug in a laboratory situation, are you in some way involved in their addiction if they become addicted? So there's some really, really fascinating ethical questions when it comes to human drug research, especially in relation to illicit drugs.
And you probably can't do those on rats.
Well, you can, but at a certain point, there's only so much you can learn from a rat.
Right.
You know, we've cured cancer in mice a million times over.
Yeah, hasn't helped us yet.
It hasn't helped us, right?
Yeah. So, but when did you start thinking, I want to educate, I want to talk about science?
Yeah, so I had started when I was at UC Davis as an undergraduate. I started working at the campus radio station.
Oh, that's neat. Me too.
It was fun. I did a folk music show and Americana and folk, and it was great fun. And then, you know, I left it for a couple of years and was talking with a friend of mine, and we were always talking about science and the latest news results. And over beers one night, we're like, we should do this on the radio. Yeah. Why don't we do this on the radio? So we approached the radio station, and they gave us a time slot, and This Week in Science was born.
You've been doing it that long?
Yeah, since about, I keep forgetting when I actually started doing it, but I go back and I go, really? Like it's
almost 10 years.
No, over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah, we're going on almost 15 years for me now.
Wow. Was it with Justin all this time, or?
No, it was initially with a friend named Ted Dunning. And then later when I moved to San Francisco, I couldn't do the show anymore.
Yeah,
so we brought in another friend, Gregory Yen, who then he and Ted did the show. I really, really missed the show.
I was going to say, that must have been hard. Yeah.
I really, really missed doing the show. And the show was actually the thing that took me back to Davis to finish my PhD. So I went back to school.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I wanted to finish my PhD so that I would have credibility as a scientist, to speak with scientists, and also to speak from experience as having done research and knowing how publication works and how the whole process works. And that's what I did. And I found a graduate advisor who took me into his lab and was fabulous, Dr. Thomas Coombs Hahn, and he was great, because a lot of advisors will not support a student if they know that you're not going to stay in academia.
Right.
And so I ended up in a wonderful situation where I was supported, and it was known that I wasn't going to stay in the lab and I wasn't going to be going on for a postdoc. And it was great, though.
But I think that if a scientist is smart, they realize that the science needs also people who can communicate and talk about it, who has a scientific background, but who can communicate it and explain what it's all about to people who are interested but may not have that training.
And I think there are more people in academia who feel this way now. And I think it's coming around. And it's also really hard to get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes you finish your PhD or you finish your postdoc, and you might want to stay in academia, but you can't find a job. So you have to do something. Yeah, and if you're good at communicating.
Grant money has dried up.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a shame.
Oh, yeah. 8%. And I think it's even less this year with the sequester and with other stuff. But within the last couple of years, it was just 8% of all grant applicants for National Science Foundation grants, NSF grants, got their grants.
Wow.
Funded. 8%.
It's like harder than getting into Stanford.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to be asking some good questions.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about that also is that you kind of have to be asking questions that the funding organization is interested in. So National Science Foundation ostensibly is going to be interested in all science, right? But there are certain areas that seem to be getting more funding than others.
Of course.
They generate more publications. They generate, maybe drugs, treatments for humans.
They can make money on it, or there's the politics are not controversial, or things like that. Yeah. You know, I wonder, last week, I know in fact, we asked you to be part of the show, but you couldn't do it. It was a very short notice. We talked last week about the ARCID Space Telescope, and I wonder if this may be a template for the future of crowdsourced scientific research. It would be prone even more so to trends and fads, but I don't know. We get so much out of science.
Oh, we absolutely do. And I think it is a trend. The whole Kickstarter idea, Indiegogo,
Yeah.
using crowdsourced funding to be able to support research is definitely a direction that things are going. There is, and I'm totally blanking on it, there is an organization that has been doing Kickstarter type fundraising for science research specifically. And I'm totally blanking on the name of it right now. But
is it Micro Riza?
No, but
No.
that might be another one.
This is another one. M-I-C-R. It's a strange name. M-I-C-R-O, Micro, R-Y-Z-A, Micro Riza, I guess.
Micro Riza. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Follow and fund. Huh? Petridish.org is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But Micro Riza, follow and fund scientific research, find projects that interest you, contribute directly to the research, and get to the results. So this is encouraging. Mm-hmm. I hope people follow this.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we have to do it, but you know what? Somebody's got it.
Well, I'm glad that this is something that people are wanting to get behind, there seems to be a trend of people wanting to support research more and more.
Yeah.
There are more and more people who want to get into doing science themselves, who are becoming citizen scientists, where they're getting involved in public experiments to be able to help scientists do their work, help them analyze their data, help them actually collect data. There are a number of labs that are coming up with really interesting ways to try and get citizen scientists to become involved and to help them out. And then on the other side of it, like with ARCID, there are a number of people who have funded there because they're going to get some time. Their classroom might get some time on the telescope.
I bought some telescope time for my the high school that my kids go to or went to. Not anymore.
Oh, that's great.
But when we had him on last week, there were fewer than 9,000 backers. We got it over 10,000. They're now 14,000 plus. They've raised 1.2. They made their goal of 1 million. Now they're going for the stretch goals. But I want to tell people, if you haven't donated to ARCID, there's only a few more days. They're only going to raise money through Sunday, and we really want to get them to that $2 million stretch goal. So anybody who hasn't, there are other sites besides Micro Riza, as Kirsten mentioned, petridish.org. Fund science and explore the world with renowned researchers. Completed projects decoding hyena calls in the Masai Mara, using ancient DNA to reconstruct avian extinctions. Ooh. I mean, this stuff is, exactly.
I know, ooh.
And then there's the SciStarter.com.
SciStarter, that's the one that I was thinking of.
Yeah, well, this is encouraging that there's this much activity in this area.
There's a lot. And I'm excited. I mean, we, This Week in Science, Twist donated some money so that we can be a part of supporting a classroom or some group or a school group in their telescope time on the ARCID. And I'm looking forward to finding out who we're going to be supporting. And I can't wait to talk to them and get them on the show and find out what they're hoping to see in the ARCID when the ARCID is finally up and active.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm excited because I get to be kind of involved in it by proxy. Like,
right.
You're doing cool work. I'm going to help you out a little bit and lean on your shoulder and find out what you're doing.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So do you feel now you have a mission to communicate about science? Has that really become your mission?
My mission is to communicate about science, but also to promote the teaching of science and science education. So getting proper science education into all of the schools across our nation, and to get kids excited about science and becoming a part of the science and technology future of our nation, so that we will go in to the future even stronger and better than we are now.
What do you think we need to do? How do we promote science literacy in this country?
Well, I think a lot of it is going to come from changing the way that science is taught. It's going to be a long road to actually make that happen in all of the classrooms across the country. But teaching science from an inquiry-based model, so getting kids to ask questions as opposed to being pushed information. So, right now
that's
it's like
more natural for kids.
It is more natural for kids. And the way that science is taught at the moment, it leaves people with the feeling that science is just a set of facts.
Yeah, and it's done. We got these, with these, see, this is what we know. Yeah. Learn that, you're done.
Yeah, and as we were talking about earlier, the scientific method, what comes into that is that you test your hypotheses, you look at your results, you compare them against your predictions, you make some conclusions, and then you ask more questions. Right. And so there's a constant iteration in the process. And so the textbook it's never done, and the textbook that a child has today in their classroom 5 years from now will be out of date. So there's a lot of stuff that'll be the same, of course, but there's going to be new information. So that textbook will be out of date. And kids don't realize that because they just get that textbook for a year and then it's on to the next class. So what needs to be taught is the process, the inquiry, the idea that science is a method and not a set of facts.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I want you to keep doing it.
I hope to. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to doing this much more. I've been involved in some really neat conversations on Google Plus. A couple of weeks ago, I got to speak with former Vice President Al Gore about climate change.
Wow. Where's that? Where can we see that?
It's on YouTube. It's also on Google Plus, but it was the first conversation, Google Plus Hangouts. They've started a conversation series that they hope to make kind of like TED Talks that the public can be involved in.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. And so I was very lucky to host and get to ask Al a couple of questions.
Hey, Al. It's the channel is Take Part, so it's youtube.com/Take Part.
Take Part, and, which is the there I am.
There's the beautiful Dr. Kiki.
Yeah, it was, and it was in honor of the
everyone,
7th.
And welcome to.
We don't have to put the audio up.
It was the 7th anniversary of the release of the Inconvenient Truth, the movie that Al Gore was involved in making.
What fun that must have been.
It was great. He called out the president, said he wasn't doing enough, and lo and behold, yesterday we have President Obama stepping out and announcing that he's going to do something more about climate change and make things happen, which is very exciting.
Well, I hope this is a great venue for you. I hope you get to do more of this. That is fabulous. How exciting that was.
It was very exciting. Yeah, I just love talking to different people and getting a chance to hear about the work that they're doing, the science that they're doing. Last week, when I couldn't be on the show, I was emceeing an awards ceremony for a middle school science competition that is funded by the U.S. Army. It's called E-Cyber Mission. And the projects that 6th through 9th graders came up with were just amazing.
Wow.
Just amazing. I was so impressed. I'm looking at these kids, 6th through 9th grade, doing these science projects that, would have blown mine out of the water for sure.
Oh, you? What about me? I did the volcano with the baking soda.
Are you smarter than a 5th grader or 6th grader?
No.
Not these.
Awesome.
No way.
Kirsten's on Google Plus. Dr. Kiki Sanford, actually just Kiki Sanford on Google Plus. That's a long story. We won't go into. From 2 years ago, they didn't want her to be Dr. Kiki. Oh, come on. But Kiki Sanford on Google Plus. twis.org. You got to do some new shows. And I think it's a great idea to use the Google Plus Hangouts. I think that'll make it a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
To get done, yeah. And thank you so much for being here. We miss you. Every time I see you here, you come by every once in a while. It's just, it's like a reunion.
Yeah, it's wonderful to get to come by when I do. Not that often, of course. But thank you so much for having me on the show today. It was great fun to talk about science, and hopefully, enough conversations like this and more people will be interested in science and how it fits into our society and how it makes us all better.
DrKiki.tv or at Dr. Kiki on Twitter. And we miss you. We love you. It's great to see you again.
Thank you. It was good to see you too, Leo.
Bye. If you want to watch Triangulation live, you can. We do it every Wednesday afternoon, about 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern Time on twit.tv. Please tune in live if you can't. Of course, on-demand versions of all 109 shows are now available, audio and video, at twit.tv/TRI. We're going to take next week off because it's the 3rd of July and nobody wants to talk about anything but fireworks. Actually, it'd be fun if we did a fireworks show for Triangulation next week. Maybe we could blow some stuff up. Would that be fun? They don't call me Three-Finger Laporte for nothing. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Kiki. We'll see you next time on Triangulation.